So the commission overseeing the electoral debates is now racing to help the Biden campaign out following his disastrous performance. Donald Trump bullied and asserted himself over Joe Biden in those debates. He gave the image of a strong leader who could hold his own and challenge others. Joe Biden, on the other hand, gave a weak and tepid performance. He didn't answer a single question. And when he was held up to scrutiny, he would instead turn to the camera and make these pitches to go out and vote. Alarmed by this, the commission's now seeking to overhaul the rules to specifically play to Biden's strengths to stop Trump from challenging him. But given the former Biden intern charged for cutting Trump's microphone, sort of ridiculous. We're going to be analysing the Democrats' dirty tricks and more. Before we do that, you're watching Political with myself, Connor Allen, and my co-host, Ryan Smith.
Hello, everyone.
And if you're liking this content, please do consider subscribing to the channel to join the community. Consider giving us a like to help us with the algorithm. And please do leave your opinion if you agree or disagree. We had lots of interesting discussions in the comment section recently, and every opinion's welcome there. So let's look at the article here. So the commission oversees the general election presidential debates said on Wednesday it will be making changes to the format of the remaining two debates. One key change it plans to implement, cutting off the microphones of Trump and Biden if they break the rules. According to a source familiar with the commission's deliberations, the plans haven't been finalised and it's still considering how it would carry out the plan. The CPD will be carefully considering the changes that it will adopt and it will announce the measures shortly, the organisation said. The Commission is grateful to Chris Wallace for the professionalism and skill that he brought to last night's debate and intends to ensure that additional tools to maintain order are in place for the remaining debates. Let's talk a bit about that professionalism and skill then. Because I don't think many people saw that, did they, Ian?
No, certainly not. I think with Chris, I don't want to be like too hard on him. I do think he is a good journalist. I think he's professional, but I do think his bias perhaps did creep into the thing, whether he realised it or not. And it just felt like he was coming to save Biden on a few occasions. Didn't press him, I think, enough on questions where he wasn't really answering. And as well, I think he was just, obviously it was a very disorderly debate. No one doubts that. You go look back at any debate before, apart from Trump Clinton. Look back at Reagan Mondale or I don't know, like Bush Dole or something like that. Bush Dole, Clinton Dole, and
Bush Gore.
Bush Gore, whatever. Like you'll see, they're sort of very, very considerate of one another. They're not really interrupting too much. And it's that, traditional style of debate. So I get that. And I think Chris Wallace was just very determined to hijack the debate and make sure that none of that was happening. But in my opinion, I don't necessarily know if that's his job. I think his job is just to be impartial and ask the questions. And I think it's up to the Biden and Trump how they want to act and operate themselves, right? And they wanted to just cut over each other. So
absolutely. And I think, so Chris Wallace said before the debate that he was intending to kind of stand back and let the candidates discuss themselves. But he didn't do that because he saw, I think what happened was he panicked, okay? Because the first question came out and he did sit back for the first question. But then he realised Biden was getting interrupted. So he thought, okay, I have to stop this. And he just swung the pendulum right to the other way, to the point where, Trump said at one point, well, I guess I'm debating you now, Chris. Or at one point, Chris and Joe Biden were sat there talking about Donald Trump and how much he interrupts. Like, in a presidential debate? Really? So, do you think there's a problem with his personality, the personality of Chris Wallace? Surely somebody else could have done a better job, I think.
Yeah, I think certainly other people could have done a better job. I think, I don't know if I want to say it's an issue with his personality. The candidates... Yeah, but the candidates both agreed to certain rules. One of those rules that they agreed to was that they would have 2 minutes uninterrupted, right? Which I think That's fair. If they agreed to that, then they should stick to that, and they didn't always do so. And that's where it's Wallace's job to interject and say, hold on, it's their 2 minutes, right? You said you agreed that you wouldn't interrupt, which he did do on a number of occasions. I think he was right to do that. Once the 2 minute is up, and as Trump said right at the beginning, we're having a discussion, right? When he interrupted them one of the first times, he said, we're having a discussion. That's what they're there to do. They have a discussion. You ask them the questions, and then they have a discussion. If you ask the question and they're not really answering it, then yeah, okay, then it's his job just to press, right? And be like, well, because that's in his 2 minute segment. So Trump can't press him there.
The question, I think it was on coronavirus, where Chris Wallace asked Biden a question, and he said, I'm not going to answer the question because that'll change the issue. The issue is to go out and vote. Like, what on earth was that? You know, any moderator should have challenged Biden on that and said, no, Mr. Vice President, answer the question. And I guess talking about personalities, okay, so maybe we can talk a bit about Steve Scully, who is the former Biden intern who's going to moderate the next debate. A former Biden intern is going to be in charge of muting Trump. Nothing could go wrong, right?
Right. The thing is as well, like, Steve Scully is someone who actually gets quite a bit of praise for his professionalism from both sides, from Republicans and Democrats, and I do think, again, I think he is a good, relatively professional. I mean, again, he'll have his own bias, but just in terms of his professionalism, I think he is good. But the issue is, again, will his bias creep into the issue? Will his bias creep into the debate? Again,
it's hard to say that it won't, because you have to be completely unbiased to know the line between Trump being assertive and dominating and bullying and when he steps over the line, and he will push right up to that line.
Yeah, it's too much power, because who else is going to get the power to cut off the mics if they do it, right? Because it has to be the moderator, really, and I just think it's too much power, and especially, like I say, you consider those connections that he has with Biden. And I just think it will cause a lot of controversy as well, because just imagine a scenario where Trump is really pressing Biden on something, you know, maybe like, because Biden, like you said, he does not like to state his position on things that his own base is divided on. So like the SCOTUS picks or fracking or like, I don't know what else. There's a few, like Antifa and all this kind of stuff. So there's a few issues where he's like really reluctant to say anything. And again, he was pressed on the SCOTUS thing in Pittsburgh yesterday or today, I can't remember. And again, he refused to give an answer. And I just think, like, if they're refusing to, it's so important that he gives an answer there. He wants to be president. He has to let the public know, do you intend on supporting, packing the court? That's like a massive, drastic change. They need to know his position. He has to be pressed on that. And if the moderator's not willing to do it, and Trump's interjecting and saying, what's your answer? Do you support it? And they cut off his microphone. I just think that's going to look awful. It's going to look awful for. It's going to be bad for it's not just swing voters and moderates who want an answer to that question.
It's not just going to look awful, it's going to be awful, because, the nightmare scenario is Trump's trying to press Biden on something, and then the moderator turns around and says, oh, no, we've finished this subject now. Biden's not giving his answer, so we're moving on, Mr. President. And I can only see bad things happening with this. But it's also quite strange, isn't it? Because the two candidates, they've negotiated beforehand the rules to the debate. And these are quite intense discussions. They sit down with lawyers and they really fight tooth and nail for every single aspect of it, I guess. It doesn't really make sense to change the rules now. I'm not even sure if they can change the rules now, right? Surely they have to speak with the two different teams.
Yeah, I would have thought that any rule changes have to be agreed upon from both sides. But again, it's not exactly clear right now whether or not that will be the case, whether or not they can just decide it, unilaterally themselves. But I think the other issue here as well is the format right now obviously suits Trump, I think, because he is clearly the more dominant personality. And I mean, interestingly, Biden actually spoke for 5 minutes more than Trump did in the last debate. But Trump's sort of dominance, that way that he can just control the situation and control the conversation, I think with the debates, that's an important thing that people want to be able to see. How do they hold themselves? And that is, I think, whether or not you like it or not, and whether or not you want to see it in a debate, it's something that people consider an advantage of Trump, and it's something they want to see in their president. So if you just have like this really, like, very tame kind of debate where it's like, okay, Mr. Biden,
2 minute pitch to camera, 2 minute pitch to camera.
Yeah, it's not a debate, is it? It's just a platform to do your, campaign speeches. That's all it'll be for Biden. It's not really a debate. Trump might as well not be there in that scenario. So there has to be there has to be a way in which they can interact with each other. If you just got it where it's like, oh, Biden, speak now for 30 seconds. Trump, you can speak now for 30 seconds. I don't think that suits Biden much more. And again, it's all the claims are going to be that they're doing this specifically to help Biden. And the mainstream media already is biased and already has this image of being biased towards Biden. So this is just going to further that.
1 hour, 30 minutes of debate, and the only thing they're focusing on is one sentence from Trump when he misspoke about Proud Boys. And we do have a video coming up for that. But, I just think the debates, what is the intent behind the debate? It's to hold both candidates up to scrutiny, to let the public see who they are, and not through the lens of these pre-prepared media statements and everything. So you're exactly right. If the whole debate is just reduced to these very tame, stale, pre-prepared pitches to the camera, it's going to be, it's not even worth the time. It's not worth the effort. They might as well just cancel it. But going back to do you think Trump really won the debate? You said it favoured him in terms of his personality and everything. Do you think he came out on top? I mean, the Telemundo poll said yes, right? But
yeah, I mean, so Telemundo poll was obviously, it was like a Twitter poll, and it's quite it's not exactly
an accurate science.
An accurate science, yeah. But then obviously you have things like the CNN poll. I mean, I was talking to you about this earlier. The CNN poll has shown the Democratic candidate ahead in every single debate, going back to like Reagan, Carter, which is as far back as I could actually find the polls for that. So even when, Reagan, who was, considered obviously a great debater, and won in 2 landslides, he was still losing in the CNN polls in the debate. So I don't think there's much you can take from the news polls. I think they're all going to be biased one way or the other. What I would say is Biden, the positives for Biden are that he has been tested a little bit. But I don't think he really engaged with Trump, so I don't think he has been fully tested just yet. Because, like you say, he just kept looking to the camera. Obviously, the positives for Trump are he kind of did force Biden to commit to a viewpoint on a few issues, like, Medicare for all and this kind of thing. And I do think that, is a real issue for his split base. And a lot of left-wing voters, particularly Bernie fans, are going to be turned off by that. And also, I think a lot of, moderate swing voters, undecideds, generally are going to vote for president based upon their personality and whether or not... Because if they've not made up their mind on policy,
it's going to be your swing of this, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, because they already... The policies are... Well, not on Biden's side, they're clear, but Trump's policies are pretty clear. So, I think... they will vote on personality, and obviously Trump comes across as the one that you can imagine, standing up for America, to other world leaders. And I think that's something that's important for any world leader, but in particular in America and the president. So
absolutely. And when you were just speaking then, you reminded me of Trump saying several times, you've just lost the left, or you've just lost the suburbs. Because what he did, he ran rings around Biden, didn't he? He tripped him up. He took full advantage of his flip-flopping on policy and his reluctance to commit to a policy. And he literally spelled it out for the nation. If you live in the suburbs, look what Biden's saying about law and order.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ties it up quite nicely, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think that covers everything.
Okay, so thanks so much for listening, guys, and thank you so much for all the comments and all the support you've been giving us really recently. You kind of surged in. We really appreciate it. Please do leave a comment down below and tell us your opinion. Even disagreeing comments are welcome. And please do consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Thanks, guys.